I'm not even sure how to do it today, but deep breath. Let's begin. That may be the last smile you're ever going to see. I hope the audio is recording because I'm not going to be able to do this twice. And so the last piece, I want to talk about is I was just listening to a guy from South Africa talk. I should have probably led with this because this is probably the most important piece. There's nothing we can do spiritually, physically, mentally, or emotionally to change the trajectory of what our world is going through. So I have a lot I want to say today, and I don't know how to say it. I've been thinking about this for months. It's really kind of come to a head in the last few weeks, and deep breath. I think a lot of things just kind of fell into place this morning. So for those of you who really like outcome and not process in order just get to the point, here's the bottom line is this is not working as a business model. I don't want to do personal vlogging anymore. I don't want to show you inside my trailers because they're just disaster zones, and I will talk about that why. And 3, I want to switch my focus to talking to old women. My future is old women, not old men. Sorry guys, but YouTube has shoved me in a box. I don't want to be in that box anymore, and so I'm going to do everything I can to get out of that box. Doesn't mean you can't listen, but the old Jill, she's gone. The new Jill has a different set of things she wants to talk about. Same theme, but just talk about it. I'm not going to show you stuff for a while. So with that, we're going to do a cutaway to just, something, and we'll be back. So I'm instituting some changes, and as I just said, I've decided to lay off the personal vlogging for a while. I know back in fall I said 1 year, one last shot at making a vlog, and one of the things that happened is I had an uptick in September of subscribers. I wasn't sure why, so one thought was by you, Sapphire Sword, was that I was being more vulnerable. That actually wasn't it. What would happen is that my Earth Catastrophe series had picked up a little bit, and then once I didn't talk about that anymore, it dropped back off. And in addition, YouTube is doing some more things to demonetize my older videos, which is where I get most of my views. So just nothing about this process has worked out for me as a business model. And so I, was going to give myself a year, but I don't have a year. I have barely enough to get through the next couple months and hopefully restart someplace else. So I've been thinking, what do I want that to be? And the reality is my future isn't online. All of us are going to get kicked off eventually. And as I talked about what I want this year to be, 1 year of restoration for me in health, home, and community. My community is going to be old women. There are going to be so many of us in the future without caregivers and spouses that what I've learned as I have aged and watched other people age is there's a line of demarcation that if you don't do certain things by a certain age and a certain time, you can't go back and undo them. And I have become more aware of how close I am to that line with the attempts to kind of get into some of the restoration process with the trailer and moving. It's created a bit of a panic within me, and I don't want to talk about it. I just want to step back and deal with it. And at the same time, I'm listening to myself on my podcast over at Primal Human Training, and I just finished rereading my book about getting ready for your post-50 life, and I'm like, this stuff is really good, and I like listening to her. I don't like watching her on YouTube. And so I just want to break some of that down. And so the first thing I want to say about the restoration process itself, it's 3 steps. First, there's the vision of what we want it to look like. So if you think car or house, right, we think of where we want the end to be. We can see the end. And I feel like I've done that with my life purpose, and now I'm, have looked at it practically. The second part of the process is tearing everything apart, right? It is sandblasting. It's pulling down the old destroyed parts of the structure or the car, or getting out the rust. And I'm deep into that right now, and it's ugly, and it's hard, and it's frustrating, and it's not going the way I want to, but It's a physical deconstruction process, but it's a mental and emotional deconstruction process too. And I don't want to share that with you online because I'm not in the mood. And then the third part of that process is the rebuilding. So when everything is torn down, then you can go through and rebuild, and you can recreate that initial vision with the ability to adapt and make changes. And I am not there yet. And so my 3 goals are my health, my home, and my community. Right now, I am trapped in my health and my home phases, and I do not know where that's going to take me. I've been having a lot of health issues. I've been having some big problems with the home restoration process. And so I don't want to talk about that online. So stepping away and deciding, well, what do I want to do? I went back to what I call the story arc. And so for those of you who are familiar with what a real story is, it has 3 components. You establish, you create a baseline, a foundation of character and context. You create a crisis point, which is the dip down, and then you have resolution, and that's either the happy ending that I talked about in my introductory video for the year, that everything's going to be okay, or you die, or the hero dies, or whatever, bad things happen. Where I want to be part of the story arc in my work is I want to be foundation building, which is the Primal Human Training and the Guide to Getting Ready. And then what I like best about who I am in this world is the ability to be with somebody at their lowest point and say, you can do this, you can get up. What's happened is because I've shared my low points online, you guys are wanting to respond to me and say, you can do this, you're going to be okay. That isn't why I'm doing it. I know I'm going to be okay. I benefit when I see other people struggle and then recover, right? That's what the Rocky movie is. The low point is the conflict and the crisis and the crisis of faith, and he goes to the boxing ring and he's like, I know I can't win, but maybe I can make it all 15 rounds. To me, that's what life is. None of us are going to win. We're all going to physically die in this world. What I know is that the only part that we can manage, especially as we age, is we know we're not going to physically survive. But we can figure out if we want to be mentally sane and emotionally stable. And what's going on in our world right now is so crazy, and it's just getting crazier and crazier. And if we're aging into that, this is going to be huge. And so part of what I'm doing at Primal Human Training is I am creating that foundation, but I'm also going to work in that crisis point of crisis, crossroads, and catastrophe. Because everything you do for basic health, basic survival, and basic aging is the same thing. That same foundation is what prepares you for crisis, crossroads, and catastrophes. And to pretend like everything's okay and that we're all going to be fine if we just wish it, or we move to the right place, or we properly prepare is ignorant. And what's real is there's going to be a huge community of us old women that aren't going to have anybody to care for us. We're not going to have anybody to provide for us. And no one's going to care if we're okay. That is something we have to decide for ourselves. Now, what that looks like, I have no idea. I am still way far away from being able to physically engage in that process. I've started to throw some ideas out with older women, and I've gotten positive feedback. So I see a future there. But right now, I am in the restoration process of getting my health back in place and my home restored. And it is in a really dark place. Now, with that said, part of why I put A Few Good Men is the reality is there's just been a couple guys who have given me a lot of support financially. And I've already reached out to you. Best email responses I've ever gotten from anybody that have been supportive and just very not good, very heartwarming, very validating. But the reality is there's just not enough men, because women don't donate, men donate. Women buy products, men don't buy products. That's what I've learned. The truth is I can't count on donations. I don't get enough views or donations to survive, and I don't want to do this anymore. I've said repeatedly, I can't live like this anymore. And so I want to regroup as a business, and I want to target women, and women buy products. Women want to save time and money. They're too overwhelmed to do entertainment, and they don't spend their money that way. Or they don't have the money. Women tend to be a little bit poorer, I've noticed online, that are attracted to my information. And so I want to focus on my products. I was able to get a digital store where I can now download my ebooks and some other audio that I'm going to be producing. So my focus is going to a business model. I have no idea where the videos are going. I assume I will continue to do some version of them, but I just don't know. So in regards to, A Few Good Men, I just want to say thank you. You guys have really kept me alive. You've made me be able to sustain, and I am really grateful, and I have got to make that break and let go, because it's not enough, and I can't do it anymore. I don't feel happy. I don't feel, I'm not getting any younger. I don't want to be the object of entertainment. I don't want to put my life out there for you to have something to look at, but it has no value. I want my life to be meaningful and valuable. And the reality is I like the intense, dark stuff. I am a Scorpio. I like life and death. I like the hardcore dive in and deal with the crappy stuff. And that is including going to dark places, which makes most people uncomfortable. I was listening to somebody talk about Plato and Socrates, and the truth is we always kill the messenger of truth. And one of the other things that goes on with me is that like so many people who spend their life searching for truth, searching for spiritual understanding, is that you get to a point where there's so much information, at the same time understanding you can't tell anybody. Nobody can tell you what the truth is. You have to experience it. And so for me, that becomes like a bottleneck, and I shut down because I have so much information I can't share. I collapse under the weight of it, and I don't know what to do. What I have learned, and in the beginning as true as now, is the only way through it is to establish a strong foundation, and that is the being human. That's physical, mental, and emotional strength and fortitude. And people aren't interested in that, but that's the only way you can be prepared to experience the truth, if that's a path you want to take. And most people don't want to take that. The few people who have signed up for the membership program, they're high IQ, they're high functioning, they're introspective, they're fascinating, they're interesting, they're really great thinkers. That isn't most people. And it's not very many women. Most women don't think the way I think. I get it that I'm not normal. Oh well. So that takes me to this last point. And what is the role of old women in the future and now? And there's a couple things. One is, you're right. Once you're post-parenting, you're no longer the maiden. You're pretty young maiden. You're no longer the mother. You've lost that role. Who are we? And men are having that same conversation. But I can't talk to both of us. I can only want to talk to women. I can talk to men and women as human, because that foundation building is the same thing. But in terms of life and purpose, the male-female conversation is very different. And what I believe, I don't know what's true and what's not true, but what I believe is the role of women as we age in this particular moment in time, as it has been in ancient times, is that we hold peace no matter what's happening out there. But it takes great power to do that. To not be angry, to not be judgmental, to not be critical, to not be victims, to not be any of that stuff that we hear as mainstream women now. It takes great power to hold peace in a storm. And that means you have to have a super strong foundation, and you have to be willing to do the work every day to maintain that foundation. And this is what I believe is happening at this moment as women. That peace and that power is also our willing as the feminine to let go and to step back. And I believe, I don't know if I'm right or not, but I believe that the masculine energy right now needs to step up and take action. And I have been shocked by my experience on YouTube and what I get from men. And I will be really honest, the two words I would use, not for everybody, but for most men who contact me, is timid and fragile. There's a line of demarcation between over 60 and under 60-ish. The younger men are more timid and fragile. The older men have zero interest in my message. They're almost exclusively just interested in a personal relationship. No. So it's not that men or guys won't benefit from what I talk about or what I'm doing, but what I've learned is it's two different kind of conversations. You know, women are interested in relationship and they're much more open to process, but they're busy, they're overwhelmed, they're tired, they're angry. Men are more passive. They want to see the end result. They want to give advice. They don't want to do the work themselves. I just say that I get that a lot. They're happy to tell me what to do, but nobody's doing it. So it's a very different conversation, and it's not one I want to have. I don't need advice. Advice to me just feels like more frickin' work to do. I will ask if I don't know. I have zero interest in people emailing me their advice. Do you want me telling you what to do? You know, this is the beauty of a video, is you get to click off anytime you're not interested. But I am not interested in engaging in online relationships. I'm not interested in engaging with people giving me advice that I haven't asked for. I am interested in my own restoration process of health, home, and community. And my community in the future will be old women. I can't even believe I have to say that, but unfortunately I'm in that category. And there's a big thing that happens for women between 50 and 60. We change a lot. And for women post-parenting, there isn't a place for us. I believe that we have a powerful place, but we have to do the work to prepare for it, and we can't do that all by ourselves. Most of us have learned that we can't do everything by ourselves. How we come together, I still have no idea, but someday we will get to that. And so the last piece, I want to talk about is, I was just listening to a guy from South Africa talk. I should have probably led with this because this is probably the most important piece. There's nothing we can do spiritually, physically, mentally, or emotionally to change the trajectory of what our world is going through. So when I'm talking about my personal restoration process as vision, tearing down the old and building the new, that's what's happening in our world. And it's scary, and people are going crazy, and they're freaking out. This is going to be a pivotal year. And I was just listening to a guy from South Africa, and I had someone recently say to me that as a white person, they're starting to hate their whiteness. And so if anybody thinks hating anybody, yourself, anybody else, hating anybody creates anything positive, you need to take a look at what's going on with the farmers in South Africa. If you want to see the future of being passive in your life and in your nation and in our world, you need to look at what's going on in South Africa. If you have any doubt that those who are pulling the strings want you to be happy and successful and comfortable, you need to go look at what's going on in South Africa. South Africa right now is undergoing a radical transformation that is bad. It is bad for everybody. And that is the path you are on if you remain passive in your own life. Now, the last statistic I heard was 62% of Americans are passive. I think it's much higher. That's what I've learned from being on YouTube. If you are a passive person, I can't do anything for you, and I am not here to entertain you. If you are somebody that wants to be proactive in your life and you want to take responsibility for your life and you're excited about your participation, and you get that your body's going to die, you can't control what's going on with the earth, with the sun, with war, with politics, with people, you can't control anything. If you get the only thing you can do is your own power and peace within, to be within the context of what's going on in our civilization, then this is the right place for you. So I'm going to end with that. We covered a lot of big stuff. This is just my process video. I'm sure I'll be talking about these things more or not. I have no idea. All I know to be true is that 2020 is going to be a big year. I am in an ugly, dark place. I will get out of it eventually. And that some of you guys have been awesome, and I wanted to say thank you. And when I say I've made the decision to go dark, I mean that both literally and metaphorically, because if you can't look at what is dark, you will never understand what is light. If you don't understand how to move through darkness, you will never find truth and light. And most people don't want to hear that. They just want to hear about how the happy ending and everybody's okay. And in the end, it will be. But in the meantime, I am only interested right now for myself is in doing the work to become what I believe I was put on this earth to be. And that is not a passive observer. I believe that we are very powerful. I believe the feminine is responsible for anchoring the peace in this world. And that takes great strength, courage, and bravery. And we do it with simplicity and beauty and nature, which is where I want to end up. That is my vision of what I want to restore my life to. But right now I am in the clutter, the chaos, and tearing it all apart. And it's ugly and it's hard, and well, I just don't want to show it to you. So I'm going to take a deep breath. I have no idea where this will go. For those of you who actually want to be involved on a more daily basis, you can go to 18 Crossroad, where I have the daily podcast Monday through Friday. So you get definitely a lot more information. But on YouTube, we're just going to take it one day at a time, because YouTube is pushing me off the playground. So I have no idea when I will be kicked off, but for right now, I'm changing my rules. I don't know about you. So deep breath, my friends, and I may see some of you someday, which is next time.